So I have my bottom pieces attached already. And so now we're ready to do the other design. I'm going to lay out my pattern. I'm just going to trace over it really hard. But you see where the white lines are? This is from the imprint of tracing out my design. I've cut out both sets of my appliques. I'm going to take my pieces and I'm going to center them. Remember, this is our center back, so you don't want to put anything close to that. So I'm going to put this right in the middle, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, and make sure that you're mirroring the pieces, because I've got both of my boot covers facing each other. So I'm going to position them so that they're about in the same spot. And I'll repeat the same thing for the back side. So I've got them positioned. So now I'm going to iron these down in place, and then I'll show you what we'll do next. Now I have my pieces ironed in place, bottom or the foot portion of my boot cover. So I'm going to use a blanket stitch, and I'm just going to blanket this all the way around. I've appliqued the bottom of my boot cover, and I've done, I don't know if you can see this, but I did a blanket stitch all the way around to seal in or join the two pieces. And as far as my design piece that's on the side of my boot cover, I did a blanket stitch also all the way around. So now that our applique is done, we're going to take our liner piece, and you want to lay it down right sides together, and I'm going to sew it together at the top. So I've turned the boot on the wrong side, and I've already done the top, but I have sewn the bottom portion, or the toe and the foot portion, together. So I'm going to trim this off, turn it, and then we're going to get ready to connect the front. Both of the boot covers are pressed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew up the right side of the front. And what I like to do on this case, since I've got everything where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and split it right down the middle. That'll make it easier to sew. Now that they're split, we're going to put them on top of each other, right sides together, and we're going to sew up the front. So we're just going to pin this down, and we're going to sew the front section, and I'm going to grab just a little bit of the back, just right in the seam, because you're going to sew one going in one direction, you're going to come back and sew the other one going in that direction. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these up. Now that the boot is sewn, where the point is, which is the very front, you're going to clip across. Do not cut the stitching. And then you're going to trim down the front. You're going to clip the curve close to the stitching. The boot will sit inside of each other. One will sit inside the other one. And that way you can sew it in a circle. Now that the boot is done and I've pressed it, and we're pretty much ready to attach fringe on it, I'm going to attach these to the upper section of the boot to give it a little more character. To make the loops for ties in the back, I'm just going to cut the black fabric on the bias, and I'm actually going to make the loops as well as the ties from this. So I'm going to cut it about an inch. I made my lace-up tie, and I used it using the fast turning tube, so you can check out my video on how I did that. And I also made one for the actual loops that are going to go in the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of position how I want the boot or the lace-up tie to be, and that kind of gives me an idea. And it looks like each one of my loops is about 2 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to cut all my loops now. I've cut a total of 24 loops for each boot, and I'm going to go ahead and place the loops, and I'm only sewing on the right side of the material, so I'm just going to pin it to the right side, and I'm going to pin each loop, and make sure every loop is the same width. But I'm going to go ahead and get all of my loops pinned in place, and then we'll come back and tell you the next step. Well, I have the loops all pinned in place. I don't know if you can see this. So I'm going to sew down my loops on both boots. My loops have been sewn in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a piece of boning on top of what I've just sewn, so that it'll have some stability. And then we're going to take that and roll it in. Make sure the boning is sitting on the inside. We're going to roll it in, and then we're going to top stitch take the back, roll the back in, and we're going to top stitch it down just like that. So you're sandwiching the boning inside of where your loops are, and then you're just going to top stitch down through all thickness. Now that my loops are sewn in and I've got the boning sewn in on one side, we're going to double attach the boning to the other side because the boning is pretty wide and you want to secure it on both sides. I took a piece of scrap fabric and just kind of lined it, and it's going to act as my facing for my lace up. So what I'm going to do is when I sew down the boning area, I'm going to sew this down on one side, and on the other side I won't sew it down. I'll leave it free because when they tie up, it'll loop up together like this in the back. The facing is attached on the inside, and as you see, once it's looped up in the back, then you'll have the lace up ties, and you'll start lacing from the bottom up. But now we want to do all of our decoration at the top, because you know me, I like to embellish. So here's some fringe that I had taken off of an old Western outfit, and I'm going to start on one side, and I'm going to just top stitch this down on both sides, cut it, and then do the same thing for the other boot. I've attached the fringe. I bought this dress at a local thrift store, and it had this really cute trim at the bottom. See, it's still pretty, and I'm going to use this. This is, I don't know if you can see this, but these are wooden beads. It also had this piece attached to the bottom of the hem. This was sewn down to the bottom just like that. Well, I cut this off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to attach it to the upper portion of my boot. I'm going to stitch this down to the top of my boot, and it's going to add a nice character to the top of the boot. Just add a little decorative stitch, and I think it matches perfectly. Well, the trim has been attached, and I think the boot looks rather nice. So now all you have to do is just lace up the back. The good thing about these boots is they are adjustable. So we're just going to lace up the back, and then we're done. Now our boot cover, or our spat, is finished. And as you see, I have the boot inserted inside. To keep the boot cover on the boot, I'm going to turn this upside down so you can see. I added a piece of elastic, black elastic, and I attached it and sewed it to both sides, and that holds the boot cover in place so that when you're wearing them, they don't slip off. So isn't this just the coolest project? I hope you try this. Happy sewing!